All right, today we are going to be working on recovering a traditional chair. I think I mentioned earlier that I'm working on a dining room set, and these are the cushions for the chair that I need to recover. As you can see, the fabric is well worn. It actually has stains on it. It's gross, and then the pattern is just not something that I would like, just a traditional stripe. So what we're going to need for this project, you'll need the original cushion, new fabric that you would like to cover the chair in. For this, I've chose this kind of gray and cream, I don't know what you would call that, just a kind of a hatch kind of pattern thing. I'm not sure what you'd say. But that's the new fabric. You will need a staple gun. Don't let those intimidate you. They're a little bit scary, but you'll definitely need it when it comes to the back and stapling the fabric on. Some extra staples, because we'll go through a lot of them. You'll need, let's see here, a needle nose pliers, maybe this kind of a pliers that has more of a blunt edge, and then also a screwdriver, which will help get underneath the nails that we'll be pulling out. All right, here's step one. Here's how we get started. Taking the original cushion or the original pad for the chair, we'll need to flip it over, and on the back side, you can see over the top of the fabric, they have this, it's like a black kind of mesh fabric that usually is on the back of most of these kinds of chairs, and it's just it's a finishing fabric. It just makes it look like a professional job, which we will add at the end of our chairs. And you can see that this is stapled on with all different little staples, but that's not the worst. It's actually underneath this fabric. You can see that there's a bunch more staples. So that's what we're going to be using our needle nose plier and the screwdriver for, to pull out all of these staples. So here's how we get started. I have found that the easiest way to do this is to simply start pulling up this black fabric and trying to work the screwdriver underneath it. And once you kind of start pulling it up, see how each one of these little staples pulls up? Then we take the needle nose pliers and pull those out of there. Sorry if you hear a weird noise in the background, that's Kalu yawning. She's helping us out today. And then you go along the sides of this and you just start pulling up this black fabric. It doesn't necessarily matter if you get the staples up or not, because we're going to be pulling out a whole bunch of staples. Sometimes it's nice they come out easily like this, where they'll just pull out with that black fabric, but not always, and we'll have to come back later and then pull them back out. So that's the first step, is to take off this black fabric first. Okay, once we have the black fabric off, this is what the back of the chair looks like. Now, your chair might not look exactly like this. It just depends on how they made the seat. But this one, for example, has sort of a wood frame, and then on the inside you can see the foam, which will actually be uncovered once we take off the material. So the next step is to start pulling off this fabric. And it's exactly the same way that we pulled off the black mesh backing. We're just going to be taking out each one of these staples, which I'll try to zoom in on a little bit here. They are all along the edge, and that's what we're going to need to pull out. It's a tedious process. There's probably, I want to say, at least 100 staples in this, so it's going to take you roughly 30 minutes, I would say, to pull this all off. But once you kind of get into the swing of it, they come out pretty easily. So, and the good news is that when we put on the other fabric, it's a lot easier. We just use that staple gun, pull it taut, and that's how we'll end up putting the fabric back on. So that's the next step, is to pull off the fabric and all of the staples with it. You don't want to leave the staples in, because they could come out and poke you later. Or when we staple on the new fabric, you don't want to have to be worrying about running into the old staples or not being able to staple the new fabric on because there's staples left in the seat. So my recommendation is to make sure you get each and every one of those out. All right, now that we've taken off all the fabric on the cushion, here's what we're left with. We just have that wooden frame The padding on the flip side, on the reverse side, which is there's a cotton blend on top and then a yellow foam underneath. In some cases, for some of the chairs that you recover, you will need to replace this foam. You can see it on here, it's about an inch to 2 inches thick. But in this case, my foam is in pretty good shape, so I'm actually going to leave it. But if you needed to replace it, you can just go to your local fabric store, craft store, and they'll have rolls of foam that you can use that you can just cut to fit the shape of your chair. So, now that we have that part complete, I'm going to flip it over and I'll back up a little bit to show you here. I have a piece of fabric that's already cut, that's ready to go onto the back of this chair. So you just want it to be cut a little bit excess on the sides because we're going to be wrapping it around the cushion like this and stapling it. So you'll need a little extra, but you won't need a lot extra, so don't worry about going too far over the edge. I would say that I went about 5 inches over the edge of the cushion so that we can bring that around. But we will be sitting on top of here and stapling around it just so that we can get it really tight, so you won't need too much excess. Okay, so here's the next part of our process. I have to scale back a little bit because I'm actually going to need to sit on top of our cushion so that I can show you exactly how I recover these. So I've put in the first staple, which you won't be able to see from there, but you need to staple one edge of your fabric in order to hold it into place while pulling the other edge taut. And what I have found works the best is if you actually sit, and it seems really bizarre, but sit on top of your cushion, because this compresses your foam, so that you'll be able to pull the fabric tighter around the edges. So you pull this as tight as you can, and again, I stapled one side, and now I'm on the opposite. And then using your staple gun, just put it down on here and put in your staple. This you'll do on all 4 sides to hold the fabric in place, and then you'll repeat and just add staples along this edge to make sure that it's held properly. So I'll do that now. So now I've stapled all the edges, all 4 edges. I'll see if I can show you here where you can see all the different staples along the edge. I have found that if you use staples going against the pattern or against the sides, so see how they're horizontal versus running this way vertically, that helps hold the fabric in place better. So if you can do that, try to do that. There are areas where I end up having to do them vertically just because I couldn't reach. So now we're at our next step where you have all of your corners left. So you've done all the flat sides, but you still have the corners. And what I've found works best is if you can tuck in the fabrics, and I've put a staple on each side, and then fold your corner. Let's see if I can do this with one hand. Like this, and staple that into place. So what you'll have left basically is kind of this, I don't know if they call them hospital bed corners, but it just leaves a nice clean edge where each of those corners are, and you just staple that into place there. So I will do that at this time. So now we have our completed cushion, and you will see, let's see if I can zoom in here. On each edge where I folded it over and then stapled it, I then cut off all of our excess fabric. And part of the reason for that was, can you see these screw holes? This is where this cushion will get screwed back onto the chair. And if you can leave those visible, it makes your life a little bit easier than having to screw through the fabric. And especially on these edges where it gets really thick, if your screw hole is underneath that, it can be very difficult to put it back on the chair. So I always try to be cognizant of where these are and try to leave them exposed if possible. So your flip side of your cushion will look like this, with our nice corners on every side. There we go. So this is almost ready to put back on your chair. The last step will be to add the black cloth finishing fabric, but then we'll be ready to put it back on our chair. And that's as easy as it is. Here I have the chair that we started with, and it's just a tan kind of latticework chair with the original cushion, and I will change that out right now for the new cushion that we've recovered. Without screwing it in, of course, but this is kind of what you can expect to see afterwards. I am in the process of sanding down all of the chairs as well and painting them white. So the end product will look very different than the original, which I will discuss in a later post. But you can see where just recovering the cushion goes a long way, and it's just, it doesn't have any stains, which is a bonus from the last one. And if you do put new foam on it, they're even softer and more comfortable to sit on as well. So recovering chairs isn't all that difficult, but I do think for a relatively minimal work, you can have a totally unique and different looking product with the fabric that you would actually pick for the original chair. So I hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial. I wish you the best of luck on your